I can't tell you how many times I've met a man that was very successful, doing a lot of really great things in his life, having a really successful business, healthy body, having a lot of money, traveling and going about the world and living as if he was living this ideal, successful experience. And I think a lot of men, I would honestly say almost all men, are really compelled with the idea of freedom, of having time and financial freedom, myself included. That's been a big pursuit of mine in my life. And I met these guys who seemed to have everything that they wanted, who seemed to have checked off all the boxes. And they had a lot of it figured out. They had the discipline, they had the focus, they had the rigidity, they had the structure, they had the ruthlessness, they had the leadership, they had the conviction about where they wanted to go in their life. And they sought that, and they made it happen every day of their lives. And they finally got it. But when they got it, there was this deep unhappiness that they felt. And that was so strange to me when I first started working with these successful men as to why they felt so upset. It was a total mind fuck. Because I was like, dude, you have everything you could want. Why are you so unhappy? And as I meditated on those men and I thought about their lives, I noticed one common trend among every one of them. And I'm coining it the science of the external versus the science of the internal. And I saw that they had mastered, in a way, the way of mastering the life outside, mastering their finances, mastering their habits, mastering their mindset, mastering their bodies, mastering their diets. And for all intents and purposes, they were succeeding. Men looked up to them. They had a lot of money. They went on really cool vacations. They had the freedom. But when I talked to them, they were so empty. They were so upset. There was this void inside of them that nothing really seemed to be able to fulfill for them. And what happened is that it reflected in their laziness. They became lazy. They became weak. They became unmotivated. They became dopamine addicted. They fell into their vices, and their vices sucked them down more and more and more and more and more. And I asked them, I said, what motivated you? And almost every one of them had a very similar story. It was either about proving somebody else wrong or sticking it to somebody that had hurt them, or trying to prove themselves to the world, and that their motivations were based in lack, fear, anger, frustration, revenge. I'll get back at my mom. I'll get back at my dad. I'll get back at my ex. You ever listen to these red pill videos or a lot of these influencers? They say, turn your pain into power. And sure, that may be helpful to some people that are in pain. But what I realized is that you can't use pain to fuel you. You have to use something else. And then I started to meet another class of men that seemed to just float through life. They seemed to have this grace, this air, this joy about them. And for some reason, they were having a ton of fun. And everything seemed to flow for them. And everything seemed to click for them. They had good relationships. They had peace. They had success. They had a sense of fulfillment. They had a sense of purpose and mission that was beyond what their ego told them that they needed to do. And I noticed in them that they were practicing virtue. And I saw that there was a science, an exact science, just as to the external world, but also into the internal world. And that those men had mastered the science of the external world. They knew how to market, they knew how to sell, they knew how to brand, they knew how to have good, healthy habits, they knew how to eat well, they knew how to exercise, they had a sense of discipline, they had a sense of focus. But this other class of men, this other group of men, they had deep true God-given purpose. And I saw the way that they moved. They moved with grace. They moved with fun. They moved with ease. They moved with laughter. And by some magical mystery, everything seemed to fall into place in their life. And they weren't running away and hiding from the system and pretending like their lives are successful. No, they truly were living very successfully. And they also had the freedom. They had the freedom internally and externally. And then I got really curious. I said, what is that thing that they're doing? How can I copy that? How can I duplicate what they're doing so I can show other men how to do it, so I can live it myself? And what I realized is there was a 3-step part. The first step was to practice virtue. Now, step aside and step away from the dogma and the Christianese and the language around virtue, because virtue seems so pie in the sky. I'm this moral superior person. And when I thought of people that were virtuous, I thought of these sort of stuck-up people that were like, oh, I'm better than you. I don't do bad things. That was only until I realized that with every practicing of virtue comes a gift. A very special and unique gift that I call the Infinity Stones of Virtue. And I noticed that those that actively practiced a certain virtue set, more importantly, as many virtues as they can, they gained more and more spiritual and emotional and mental power. They gained a deeper grounding in their purpose. And in that clarity, in that peace, in those gifts, those superpowers of the virtue, unlocked a sense and an understanding of God. And it's very interesting how when you practice virtue, you get clarity on the mechanisms of how life works. Things start to unfold in front of your eyes that were there the whole time, but you just couldn't see. All the patterns start to unfold. The A equals B equals C. You start to see the connections between everything. You start to see how your thoughts and your words and your mindset and your heart set starts to affect your reality around you. You reverse engineer this process. And then when you reverse engineer this process and go back to the root of that virtue, you see the gifts of a higher power. You see the gifts of God. And then that reflects in your relationships, in your peace, in your love. And through the cultivation of this virtue comes your highest purpose. That when you start interfacing with this cause and effect God reality, that if I input this thing, I get something out of it. You start to realize that there's something higher going on, a higher meaning, a higher purpose, a higher trajectory that you can go on, that I call your highest good, your God-given purpose. So you can go around and thinking all day that your purpose is to make money and to travel and to have a family, to maybe look good, to maybe have some fun memories. But every man that's truly on the path of success, every man that's truly on the path of their highest good knows that there's something more, something beyond the story that they tell themselves. They know that there can be something so much better than how they think it could be. But a lot of them are lost as to how to get there. They don't know what to do. And so I realized that all three of these things acted as like a stool, a three-legged stool. You had to practice the science of the outside and the science of the inside. Those are two important factors. Then, once you practice the virtue, once you get the gifts of virtue, once you get the infinity stones of virtue, then your clarity and your understanding of how God works through you. Then when you have this clarity and this understanding, it opens up this love and this awe and this amazement about everything around you. You see the miracle that's unfolding around you. The miracle of me being able to talk to you, the miracle of you coming across this video, the miracle of your eyes refracting light to see, to perceive, to feel, to touch, to breathe, the billions of things that are happening in your body and all around you right now for you to have this moment experience. It is a miracle. That's the miracle. And this virtue sort of makes you a child again. The wonder and the awe and the amazement of experiencing that excitement right now. And in that awe and that amazement, you get a glimpse of the man that you're supposed to be that's so far beyond what you could have imagined, that seems so elusive, and yet it's right here and right now for you. And when I figured that out and I started to see that, I started to have conversations with men about it. And I saw something click in their eyes. One of the people that I worked with is a good friend of mine. His name is Casper. And he had this beautiful vision for what he wanted. He had an idea as to what he wanted. He had the external reality figured out. He made a lot of money, marketing and selling. He was really good at that. But he wasn't practicing the virtue. He wasn't seeing the value of the virtue. And then through one conversation that I had with him, everything clicked in his mind. He saw the value of the virtue. He saw the connectivity to God. He saw the mission. He saw the man that he was supposed to be. And then everything came together. Everything merged together. And now he's living his dream. His dream was to go travel throughout the Mediterranean on a boat and bring in these amazing thought leaders and have these incredible conversations about consciousness and life and love and value and purpose. And now he's there right now. And it was so interesting that the second that he aligned with that virtue, the second that he started to channel in the value of mastering your sexual energy, the second that he started to channel in the value of patience, the value of diligence, the value of these virtues, doors started to unlock. People started to give him money for the boat. People started to align so easily as if it was magic. He was in the miracle zone because through the practice of virtue, he was stepping into the grace that is now, that is available for you to get to where you want to go, to align with your highest mission. And it was just in that one conversation that I had with him that everything clicked. Now, why am I telling you this? You might know this. You might have even experienced this before. You might even value the virtue. But many successful men that I've talked to, they don't see the value in the virtue. Or they know the highest vision for themselves, but they're so consumed with the man that they think they need to be right now that they've thrown away their highest good for something that's not as good. And that's why they're lost. That's why they're hungry. That's why they're sad. Because they're going about their whole lives living this lie, living this story that is so underneath who they could become. They're living this reality that might seem good, that might seem exciting, but their souls are telling them that they're meant for so much more, that they're meant for so much more. And it burns them alive and it eats them alive. And so they box it in their brains and they work harder and they grind themselves to a bone only to resent the things that they got as a result of it. And that's not how life is supposed to be. And so what I offer these men like Casper, men like a lot of other men that I've worked, is the ability to remind them of where they're going, to remind them of their purpose. Because sometimes people get lost. You can watch this video and go back about your life and look at your complaining girlfriend, or look at the numbers and you're like, wow, these numbers are terrible. Or look at your body and you're like, oh, maybe I don't like the way I look so much. Or look at the reality that you're in now and get sucked back into that darkness, that frustration, that anger, that disconnection that you get from having the spiritual death of disconnecting yourself from your purpose, disconnecting yourself from God, disconnecting yourself from the value of virtue. So I remind men of where they're actually supposed to go consistently. And we get high on this vision because when you talk about it, when you feel it in your heart and your mind and your soul, it uplifts you. It fills your soul with excitement. It fills your soul with purpose. You're no longer drudging to do what you think you need to do. You're no longer fighting your vices. You're no longer fighting against the world. You merge with the world. You become one with the world. You become at awe with the now. You become in awe and in love with the miracles that are unfolding around you, because you are a miracle. The fact that you're alive is a statistical miracle. The fact that that sperm inseminated that egg and you came out as a healthy, competent, strong, conscious man on this earth is a statistical impossibility, and yet here you are. That's a miracle. So your life is meant to be a miracle. And I show men how to get back onto the track of making their lives that exception. And I give them the tools and the community and the excitement and the discipline, but also the gifts of all of the work that I've done on myself for all these years, for 10 years, and all of the solutions that I've given to all my clients to finally align them with their highest good, with their God-given mission, with their purpose, the real mission. Not what they think they have to do, but what they know they have to do. Because on that path, it can be scary. It can be lonely. I go through it every day, and sometimes it's scary and lonely. But I remember the gifts that I have. I remember my mission. I remember the man that I'm supposed to be. And I feel empowered by the virtue that I practice. And I feel empowered by the connection that I have with God. And that is how you're actually going to get what you want. You have the discipline and the external mastered. But now, just like the science of the external, you have to master the science of the internal. And when you get both of those, then your life will be meaningful, truly meaningful. Then you will be able to live your life. You'll be able to be on your deathbed, take your last breath and say, yes, yes, I figured it out. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. So I want to invite you to be part of this vision, to remind you of who you're supposed to become, to remind you of the man that you are meant to be. Because I know you're probably upset and depressed right now. And you're looking at your life and you're like, did I work this hard for this? And I'm here to tell you that there's so much more. There's so much more excitement. There's so much more love. There's so much more peace because it's your birthright. So I want to get connected with you. I want to get connected with you and go deep into understanding your story and understanding your life and reminding you of the vision of the man you're supposed to become, reminding you of your purpose, reminding you of who you actually are, giving you the tools, giving you the resources, giving you the community, and giving you the support so that you can finally align with the man you're supposed to be. So click a day where we can connect. And I really look forward to meeting with you and connecting deeply so I can serve you, so that you can finally get to your highest good.